This boy. His name's Apollo, and I've had him since he was a weanling. It took him 6 months to touch a human. The thing about him is he's quite a little sketcher. I'm going to kick this chair over, I'll show you. My goals for him are to teach him how he can stay comfortable in a stressed out position. He's pretty good at going back to returning to normal, but you can see kind of his eyes a little stressed out still, so I'm going to stop here and whistle him over. Good boy. You don't have to be so nervous all the time. Anyways, good boy. It's a slow process for him. I really want him to learn to trust himself. And that comes obviously from time, but also some experience. I'm rewarding him when he turned back to me, when he faced the thing that caused him anxiety. And what am I doing to get those responses? I'm just shuddering my body so he can tell my heart rate, he can hear my voice. Everything's copacetic. Good. That's enough work for that one today. You just enjoy your grass. Okay, let me get back to my chair and then we'll talk more. Well, he's a little sketched out because I moved my chair, but I wanted to jump on here, talk about this horse. Even if no one watches, it'll be just for me and my recollection of memory. He's up for sale, but super casually because I haven't put much effort into selling him. I'm kind of on the fence of whether or not to keep him for life. He's out of my stud, and now my stud's gelded. This guy's gelded too, but kind of at a position where he needs a very conscious training. He needs a human who's willing to help teach him how to trust himself and his world around him. And it's going to be painfully slow because trust compiles and then a little bit gets burnt away and then it compiles more. And so this horse, if he's not given the right start, the right foundation, he will end up in a meat market or an auction, or he'll become a bolting horse. And having been his steward since he left his mum, I feel very responsible for him in that sense. So he's up for sale, but it's to the absolute right buyer. Anyhow, he may not be up for sale for long. He may not be for sale for the rest of his life. I have no idea. But all I know is that my plan for him right now is to kind of really focus in the next 3-6 months while we've got the sunny season here, and teach him the ropes. Now he's 4 years old. I was waiting tentatively till 3, but I gave him an extra year because I really like to see the horse's bones develop, and their spinal bone doesn't actually develop fully until they're around 5 or 6. And so what happens when you have weight on that, it can fuck them up for a long time with the rest of their life. So I've seen it happen with one of my horses. He was jumped far too early and he had early onset arthritis, and then I've seen it time and time again, and most people have, starting horses too early. Anyways, 4 years old, he can be started lightly now, consciously, but I'm not really going to put a saddle on him until he's shown me that he can handle. To be honest, he's had a saddle on him. Because I've done everything very consciously, I've put a saddle on him and showed him that that sensation is not scary. And he didn't find it anxious or scary in the beginning. Not that he does now, but because keeping him below threshold in this stress, just introducing new things to him, and then showing him that he can stay relaxed. Teaching a horse how to relax is a big one. I'm about to run out of time. Anyhow, that's a shame. Here he is. We've just finished our first session of the spring. He's getting some nice grass. Apollo, everyone. Got more memory. Okay, where were we? Starting him. The way I think it's essential for this horse to be trained is really, really, really strong foundation. Because then, as we come into the meat of it, we will reduce our chances of having bolting, which is when the horse just shoots off with no control out of fear, and rearing or having people fall off them. Because to be frank, I'm going to tell you something. For some horses, most horses, I can't really speak for all horses, but especially in the beginning, having a rider fall off them is a traumatizing event. And not only is it painful, because most times people hold on really tight to the reins and then they just bounce their whole body weight off the horse's head, which is on its spine. It's so delicate. But also, like, feet can get caught in stirrups. Horses can accidentally step on them. Like, it's suddenly a lot of stimulus for a horse at once, and it's all externalized. It's all things that are happening to them. So to reduce the chances of him running away with someone, him rearing, him bucking, bucking just as a sign of uncomfortability, you know, it tickles, I want it off. Because this horse surprisingly doesn't buck. I've watched him since he was like 6 months old. Remember, when he'll turn his ass around to the herd and be like, try and claim space, but it's really, really fragile, because if anyone actually bucks at him, his ass tucks under and he scoots away. It's really funny. I'll actually try and add a clip of this when him and his dad are playing, and you'll see what I mean. But basically, to prevent all that happening, all those chances of those things happening in the meat of it stage, the really strong foundations, so that we're not working backwards, you know, so we're not working through a bronching issue or a bolting issue or him being overwhelmed and nervous with someone on top of him issue. And for him, if he's overwhelmed and nervous, he's just going straight into flight mode. That's his, as you saw, his thing. So, and that's a very fucking normal, sorry for swearing, that's a very normal response for horses to have. We've domesticated them mostly out of that, or we can train them in like harsh ways out of it, where it's like, whatever, let me just tell you right now, whatever's in the environment, I'll actually be your worst nightmare. In terms of your stress levels or whatever. That's one training way. People do that. I mean, you can watch on show jumping or like competitive sports what happens in an arena when a rider or a horse has a disagreement, doesn't want to do it, is scared, overwhelmed, whatever. You'll see that cycle. That's one path, fine, whatever. Don't condone it, really. I think conscious connections with animals is the key to why they're here, so better off just learn to communicate with them and show them, teach them how they're gonna be okay. And that's what I'm trying to teach him. I think he just needs to look at the world around him. If there's a tickle on his belly from a piece of equipment or something in the bushes, he needs to be able to have trust in himself and the rider and the handler, the human, to keep them safe, you know? And you can only do that so much because it's survival instinct. But my best way for it is just, I was about to give you the secret sauce. And then my phone I needed to delete more videos. So, the secret to him. Look, he's even chilling right now with his friend. And he's got this whole field to mess around in. Hey, handsome. Okay, side note. When horses relax, their privates there, males specifically, it's a symbol that they're relaxed. Not aroused, relaxed. They're letting it out the sheath. Okay, do you see that? I smacked my leg here and he shuddered. So this is the first spot we could ever touch him when he was a baby. 6 months to touch this spot. See, you're shaky, you're nervous. Just a nervous Nelly baby. But so I'm just attributing that nervousness to personality perhaps, and also instinct. And it's like trying to domesticate an animal. But it is that. But they're like intelligent, so you can communicate with them pretty easily. Most animal training, I'll give you another little secret here, is just timing and having a reward. Now, I'm not saying that reward-only methods are the way to go, not by a long shot. But what I am saying, even with horses, even with just anything, humans, anything, there has to be a balance. And being able to pay them is like 90% of the game. You just want to be able to like pay them when they're doing something right, because if you're doing it right, you're working on things which you know they're going to have success in. Like, I'm not going to put a saddle on him now and think he's going to have success in it. I'm going to, like, today I worked him by being on the ground and putting my arm just there. See, he's not fully comfortable with it yet. So even though we did a session today and it was successful, that needs to be foolproof. And then we progressed to like putting a blanket on or something around his belly, tying it up. I'm taking it slow with this horse. He's never going to be the type that can be broken in or like started in, 3 months is the professionals out there now. But throughout the whole horse human history, I'm sure there have been 3 month, 3 week, 3 day, 3 hour programs. So if you get a horse started when you need one, you don't have 3 weeks. Anyways, the point is, him and I, we're going to be doing this with trust at the forefront. He's got to have the incentive, the drive to want to do it. And to build that drive, we have to just keep him curious about the world and also pay him a shit ton when he gets into a new environment that may cause him stress, so that he turns that environment positive. Same with a dog, to be honest, but that's for another later video. Alright, see you later. Okay, so something happened after. This is really bright. Hang on. So I got kicked by him, and I'll explain what happened. Basically, I was consciously connected to him, scratching him with one hand, brushing him with another, combining the good feelings where I'm scratching him because I'm getting deep tissue and I know where he likes it, with some maybe cortisol releasing spots of touching him in uncomfortable places like armpits, belly, back legs. I got task focused. I got focused on taking the dirt off. As you can see, he was really dirty. I've been lazy. Roast me, I don't care. So I was focused on really cleaning him, and I stopped being consciously connected to him. I stopped seeing that he was stressed out, that he was going past his threshold, that he was ticklish, that he was being overstimulated. And he may have even raised his foot as a warning. I wouldn't have picked it up because I was task focused. So when he clicked me, he clocked me right on the kneecap. And horses' hooves are not flat, they're kind of concave. So I actually landed it was a really nice position to get a kick. It was just more of like a shock than it was pain. Although that being said, the blunt force trauma on the kneecap has caused some inflammation. But I went to fight night still, so, I'm feeling okay. Anyways, what did I do after he kicked me? Well, I didn't chase him away. I didn't, kick him back. I didn't match his intensity because the thing was so fast that all that was left was the aftermath. So I recognized that I had to touch him where I got kicked again. I had to show him that that sort of response doesn't get you what you want, which is for me to be out of your space or not to touch you there. We're going to have to be able to touch you everywhere. And that's just for safety reasons. If they get a cut somewhere, now it's just important, okay, that you have to be able to touch your horse wherever. And it is also kind of part of the foundations, right? You want to be able to have the trust with your horse that if you're touching him somewhere, he knows that it's for his best interest, or if it's uncomfortable, he'll put up with it because he trusts you as a leader. There's a reason why you're doing something. Anyhow, so I walked up to him, added the scratchies with one hand and the brush with another, which was what I didn't do before, and just neutralize the space. So there are some schools of thought which would have chased the horse away or matched intensity or dominated the horse just to show that you can't do that. They may work for some horses. I'm really just focusing on my training plan per individual animal that I deal with, and this animal specifically needs trust built. He doesn't need it broken. And he needs to view me always as a consistency in his environment, as not a volatile individual, not another thing that could be unpredicted and needing him to run away from. So I talked a little bit about paying the animal, and I didn't really mention that paying them is giving them food, positive reinforcement. Then there's 4 quadrants of training: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. I do believe that animals need a balance of all 4 to be able to just integrate information way better. The reason why I don't just go for a positive only situation is because I need to show animals, I need to show something if they are testing where boundaries are, that there are firm boundaries. For instance, where would I use positive punishment with a horse? Personally, if a horse was trying to bite me because it's got an attitude, because it doesn't like me in its space, because I've touched somewhere that it doesn't like, and its response is to bite me, I'll match that intensity by smacking its nose out the way. That's positive punishment. That's adding punishment, punitive, something it doesn't like. Bam. Negative punishment. If I notice the horse is upset with me in its space, I'm the punishment at that point. So I remove myself. Horse gets to relax. He goes, oh, okay, fine. Negative reinforcement is when you take something they like away. I'll think of an example, but I don't want this video to get too long. Basically, as a leader here, I need to be able to assert boundaries. With him specifically, he needs to know that he doesn't always get to make the choice he wants to make in a situation. And in that situation earlier today, for instance, his friend was at the gate. He really wanted to go back to his friend. We were training in the woods. He heard his friend. He took 3 giant leaps away from me, running in the direction of his friend. I just held onto that rope and I just locked my arm. Instead of letting him get that, I just locked my arm and he snapped his own against the force of my arm. I didn't crack it, just held it. And he got to a point where he got to the end of the rope and he had to find that resistance, and then he gave. He turned around and looked at me, and instead of me, I just was neutral. I was like, yeah, that's a consequence, babe. You can't run away from me. You're going to get... But then when he got to me, he stopped, he looked at me. I rewarded him. Perfect. You wanted to make a decision. You changed your mind. Now you're back to being engaged with me. Engagement with me, I'll always reward, especially when the alternative was something that immediately thought they would feel good for, like running away. So yeah, I mean, the conscious training thing literally means having your full presence with them all times. I'm sure I'm missing on some things that I wanted to talk about, but so far I'm still pretty happy with the day. The thing that I find is responding from an emotional perspective, like, oh, I just got kicked, I'm in pain, ow, I'm angry. That's only going to create dissonance in the animal. They're not going to understand why you're so angry suddenly. I mean, if they do click into the fact that it was because they kicked you 3 minutes ago, maybe, good luck. All they're really going to know in the moment is that, holy shit, this person's volatile and she scares me. And I got to run away from her. And if I stop running away from her, then I'm shutting down. But at least the intensity's not there. Anyways, everything I think just needs to get matched with intensity. Obviously, a kick is difficult to match with intensity. It kind of happens, and then you get a 2-second window. Really, anything after 3 seconds you can't be responding to with the same intensity because you've passed it, the timing. Then it's just confusing for them. Now, that being said, if a horse is rearing, you match the intensity, downward directional correction. Bring that horse's head down. Once its 4 feet are landed on the ground, you're not continuing to yank or continuing to correct. You just go back to neutral. Poof. That way, the horse will be jumping around in circles or showing itself off or losing its mind. But you're a consistent, grounded force. It will learn eventually that it's wasting a lot of energy doing whatever it wants to do to react. And you're not reacting, you're not feeding the energy, it'll reevaluate. Most animals will reevaluate in those scenarios. Okay, I think that's all for me tonight. Good night. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.